What's going on, gardeners? On today's video, I'm going to show you how to make plant labels that will last all season long, maybe even longer, and will resist fading in both sun and rain. If you're interested in the exact same items that I'm using in this video, they will all be linked down on my Amazon storefront in the video description under the list Garden Accessories. Both markers that we're testing in this video will be fine point black Sharpie markers. On last week's video, which I will link to above, I told you that I was done using these plastic labels to label the plants in my garden because they would fade so rapidly in the sunshine, and after only a couple of months, the permanent marker that I'd use to mark them, even the UV resistant markers, would fade into nothing. So I told you that I'm going to switch to wooden plant labels because they are far more resistant to sun when you use a marker on them, but I was appalled by the prices of the smaller plant labels made out of wood, so I decided to buy these paint paddles instead because they're way cheaper. However, some of you had some concerns with using wood to write on. Because the natural grains inside wood are so large, when you use water-based markers, even these UV-resistant, fade-resistant Sharpie markers, the water-based ink tends to bleed inside of the wood, and when they get wet in rain, it can make the colors run. And that can lead to illegible print on your labels. Some of you in the comments section had some fantastic suggestions on how to prevent the bleeding when using water-based markers. Some of you said, well, you can spray them with clear coat. That will stop the running. And while that is true, and that will work great if you have a handful of labels, it may be a whole lot of work if you have to label dozens, if not hundreds, of different plants. Another solution was to write on these with pencil. And while pencil won't run and it may be more fade resistant than typical markers, the problem with pencil is it's not very bold. And I bought these giant sticks because I want to be able to see them from far away with bold ink and not have to bend down and read them. And pencil isn't good at being visible from a distance. So I think I have the ultimate solution to make a plant label that will last all season, if not numerous seasons. And that is, instead of using a standard marking pen, use an oil-based paint pen instead. These oil-based pens are fade resistant, they can write on almost any surface, and I use pens like this all the time for labeling my fig cuttings. So let's put this theory to the test. I'm going to take two paint paddles and label them exactly the same, but one with the standard water-based permanent marker and the other one with the oil-based marker. We will let them dry for 30 to 60 minutes, and then we will submerge them in water to see if the ink on the labels bleeds and if they'll still stay legible even after exposed to such extreme conditions, because if they survive this, they will easily handle rainfall. The paint stirrers have been soaking for almost an entire hour, and they've been soaking so long and absorbing so much water that the water has actually started to make its way all the way up the handle. So they are completely saturated, and I'm actually really surprised by what I'm seeing with the text inside. This goes to show you how important it is to perform honest experiments, because the results of this are not what I anticipated them to be. The Sun Gold was written with the normal water-based Sharpie Extreme, and the Sun Sugar was written by the oil-based marker. And despite the fact that they're completely saturated all the way through and soaking for almost a complete hour, they both look pretty much perfect. There was no bleeding in either of these paint stirrers. They look great. Now, I will say that on the Sun Sugar, which was written with the oil-based pen, the text is a lot darker. So I would bet dollars to donuts that the oil-based pen will probably last longer in real life. So I would probably recommend that, and that is the pen that I will be using to label all of my plants this season. But that being said, it looks like the whole bleeding issue, even with a water-based pen, is not a big deal, at least in the short term, because no matter how hard it rains, it's never going to rain as hard as submerging these underwater for an entire hour. So once again, I will be using the oil-based fine point Sharpie pen to label all of my paint stirrers for my plants this year, but no matter how you slice it, they are going to hold up much better than comparable plastic tags. And that's today's 2-minute garden tip. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.